What's up, everyone? Welcome to Hidden Power. This is a Pokemon podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Kalos region, Area Zero, Mega Evolution, Paradox Pokemon, and every single hint and speculation that might connect Paldea to Southern Kalos. This is going to be such a great episode. However, we have some bad news. Lumiose has lost his voice completely. But I am here with Soul Silver Art. What's up, man?
What's up?
Lumiose wrote us this massive document. He's written out wild theories and defenses for these theories.
We're talking about Kalos. The main question is, do we really think that Kalos is going to happen in the DLC? I pose it to you first.
So will Kalos return? I think there's a lot of variables here. I think for a long time, like, let's just bring it back, right? I think for a long time, people have wanted two regions ever since they first did it with Generation 2. It's a no-brainer. It's like the closest thing like a handheld Pokemon game or handheld game could get to a, like some sort of like open world experience, right? Being able to travel to different regions. And I think I would say, it all started with the fact that Kalos was never given a third version, right? Kalos never got a lot of closure that it deserved, and the series just jumped to Generation 7. So rumors of returning to Kalos popped up in Gen 8 with the Galar region, considering that Britain, or what is it, the UK was so close in proximity to right. France, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I don't know. I think there's I think if it's going to happen, if we're ever going to go back to Kalos and they're going to give us some new answers, right? Give the game some closure, the story some closure, add to the lore, add to the Pokemon and the legendaries. If that's going to happen, it's either going to happen now or it's going to happen in 10 years with a Kalos remake or something, right?
I think you're totally right there. Like, if there was ever an opportunity, it was Galar or Paldea. That's it. Because they're literally the neighbors of France. It logically, Game Freak could just be like, you know what? We're in the South American region for Gen 10, and here's Kalos. They don't.
They could do that. They could do that. Oh, they could. Yeah, they could give us like. That'd be wild, right?
Yeah.
Because in Alola, I'm pretty sure it was kind of weird that like in Alola, Lily goes off at the end to Kanto. Like that actually made me think, oh wow, like. What? And we did get a Kanto game afterwards, which is kind of like hilarious.
It did make sense, like in the lore of Sun and Moon, because you came from Kanto, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you did.
So, I mean, it does like kind of go full circle, and Kanto's Kanto after all.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think it'd be a lot of fun to go back to Kalos. I think there's so many hints, especially with Southern Kalos, and we're definitely going to get into it.
But do you believe it? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm dodging the question. I think I believe it. I think I really want to believe it. A lot of people write Game Freak off for not doing every single thing that we want them to do, but there are plenty of things that they do, right? And I think there are things in lore, theories that have been confirmed. I don't know. It's just everything. Like, I made my first Kalos game. I made my first Kalos post-game video in the summer before we even played Scarlet and Violet. And that was purely out of just seeing the map and seeing where the clouds were. But now that the games are actually out, a lot of the questions that I had have been answered, right, about like Area Zero. And there's even more evidence to show that they're connected. That's the biggest thing for me. I do not think we're going to go through the entirety of Kalos. All I really want is a small area that we can like access, and it says this is the Kalos region, right? Yeah. This is a part of the Kalos region that it's different. So there's different Pokemon. You can see some Paldea Pokemon there. There's some new regional forms that we never saw, but it's technically part of Kalos. I think they could also do that with. I think I would even be happy if, maybe not as happy, but even if they like gave us a couple islands that were like Kalos territory. I think that even that could be cool, but it would definitely be sweet to just like have us like all they have to do in the DLC is unlock that section of the map that you can't access, and then all you have to do is allow like your ride Pokemon to climb up the wall, and then you're in that new area, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, so what do you think?
Well, Man, I'm with you on it. It's just like it really depends on certain situations, but logically, it makes so much sense. There's a million hints that fans have picked out and sometimes created.
Yeah,
You know, like
you talking about Lumiose post, right?
yeah, definitely him. He's definitely one of them. But it's just Game Freak has never done it. You know, it's really just the whole thing. Well, not I can't say never because of Johto and Gen 2, but like just revisiting any kind of another region is kind of just out of contention, let's say, because you know a lot of people say like they wouldn't be making money on that actual region, which they would because they'd be doing it with the DLC. But
Yeah.
it's just you have to look at it in different ways. Like what you said is that it would just be a part of Kalos that we'd never been to. That's just like a little piece, and that makes total sense. Like it should be a thing.
And then that's not impeding. That's not like interrupting or lessening the value of like a full remake, right? Like
Right.
Not, like the actual remake when that comes along, there's not gonna be like less excitement because of that.
Yeah, we have to throw that out completely. Like people that are, I don't think there's anybody that believes this, but like someone that's like, it's gonna be full Kalos, the whole region. Yeah, that's not happening. Not happening.
And I don't even know if I want it with the engine that we have for Gen 9. I mean,
no,
to be honest.
No.
Right?
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be good. It's impossible. First of all, it's just like they're gonna remake an entire region. I don't think it's happening like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go for it.
I think I guess I'm kind of curious. Like everyone knows at the end of Johto you go to Kanto, right? And you explore the full 16 or you get a total of 16 gym badges. Right? But in Gen 3, I'm curious if the Battle Tower and the Battle Frontier, if that's technically considered part of Kanto, because I know in the anime that area is considered like Kanto territory. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I'm just thinking of that now.
I would just say like anything that was not in the original game was just like Johto. You know, I don't know. I can't remember well where exactly that is, but
yeah,
if it wasn't like in red, blue, or yellow, then I'd just say it's part of Johto.
Yeah,
just as a ground rule. But
yeah,
was that what you were saying? In
the Battle Frontier in Hoenn.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know if I clarified that.
No, sorry, I didn't get that part. In Hoenn, then
it is like it's on the Hoenn map. So I always thought it was part of Hoenn, but I know people, at least people who follow the anime, they would consider that part of Kanto because like Ash goes back to. Yeah, I think it's just like known to be Kanto.
I got you. That makes total sense. That works perfectly because it still applies to me. Like there's something called like anime canon basically in my mind, let's say. Yeah. You know, so it's not really like there's no pink Pokemon from those islands and all that stuff, you know, in the games. So
I wish, man, and they could make it. They could make it a reality.
They could Crystal Onyx, you know, all that jazz. I would not count it as Kanto, like in canon, the game lore, because it's not Kanto in the game, basically. Same rules as what I was saying earlier apply.
I think also like so even though we haven't received a full region, right? We haven't received that since the very beginning. I think Game Freak has been very deliberate of trying to give us massive landscapes to then traverse in post game, right? We saw that as early as Generation 3 with the Sevi Islands. I thought that was a huge addition, and that was an addition to Kanto even, right? Those are like 7 islands that you can actually go to, and there's like new Pokemon. There's Johto Pokemon in there, which is pretty cool. There's like that whole extra island above to like the northeast of the Sinnoh region. To me, that felt like enormous. That was like, holy cow, like we got like a brand new, there's a whole new body of land to traverse with like super powerful Pokemon. And then with the Crown Tundra and all the DLC, which is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about DLC. I think we should be looking at things that have happened most recently, which is Generation 8. And I think the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor are great. I think those are honestly great. To me, that's the best part of Generation 8, that and Pokemon Camp. And I think if we get if we can get more landmass, like the Gen 8 DLC, I'd be so happy.
Yeah, I same. I ditto to all of that. I think that it's just gotten bigger and bigger, like you're explaining. Basically, like every let's call it DLC, but it's like the new versions would be DLC, same equivalent. The space has gotten bigger and bigger, and I mean this is the open world Pokemon game, so it's only gonna be bigger. I've been saying that for a long time. I think that the DLC still has to be like an open world vibe.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the least, like what I'm expecting and what is like acceptable to me personally, is like the same thing as Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor put together. Like that should be the amount of space we're getting in the DLC. But they always like to go bigger and do something different. So I think that it'll be bigger even than that.
Yeah.
But it's still open world, obviously.
I mean, if just DLC in general, do you think it's only going to be Area Zero and Kalos, or do you think there could be other areas that we could traverse to? I feel like if it's an island, right, then there's no way for us to see it because it's just not on the map.
Well, you're getting into a whole different question because how many like DLC packs are we gonna get?
Yeah, let's keep that brief because I don't think we've actually talked about it on the podcast. But like, I'm curious to hear.
I think like if there's got to be multiple DLC packs. I think if there's two like the last one, then I think the first one might have two places in it. It might. I don't think that just Area Zero can count as one DLC unless it's like really small DLC, I guess.
Yeah.
But I do think that will be part of DLC, like further into Area Zero. I can't I can't speak to it myself because I haven't reached Area Zero yet in the game still. But yeah, so Area Zero and that like France area, those could be in just one DLC pack. And then another DLC pack could be an island off of, Spain or Portugal like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's totally possible.
And honestly, like I feel like we don't. I guess I don't need like. So we don't. I don't need a massive area to explore, right? Like because I feel like it's much different. I feel like a massive area is going to feel a lot different in an open world game than it does in a game like Sword and Shield. If they gave us like 3 or 4 DLC packs and they're just smaller locations, but they are maybe like more. They're like a little richer, right? They're like they have more things to interact with. I'd be happier with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean that's a problem of Paldea in general for me. Like,
for sure.
and Legends Arceus. I mean there's just like all this open world. Like this is the first open world Pokemon game, but there's just like not a whole lot going on in the open world other than Pokemon running around. Like content in there is always a plus.
Like I think what I would like to see is like if the DLC like had maybe like houses to go into, and then maybe that's a hint,
please,
right? And then like somehow that's a hint at what like Gen 10 open world is gonna look like.
I mean, gosh, if they don't do that in Gen 10, I don't even know what to say. I haven't put out like a review on Scarlet and Violet yet because I haven't finished it, obviously. Sure. But one of the main things is that like negative things. That's huge for me. Like, just for me personally, like not being able to go into houses and explore like in cities is a huge letdown for me. But just to bring it back to your original, or I guess my original question to you was just like, is Kalos realistically coming? Like, is it actually going to happen? And I kind of disagree with you. I don't think that it's gonna happen. I wanted to make sure to get back to it. I want it to. It makes logical sense. Like I was saying, the stars are freaking aligned. There's a million hints and stuff that we have here from Lumi eventually. But it's just like I was saying before, like Game Freak doesn't normally do it. So I don't know, I can't see it happening.
You just don't want to like raise your hopes up too high, right?
I just don't see it. I cannot see it happening. It's just like the fans want it so bad. And I will say, people have not realized that this generation that just happened, obviously, Game Freak did a lot of like fan service kind of things, like giving us evolutions to all those specific Pokemon and certain things like that. This would be like kind of in that same vein for them to be like, you know what? They've been asking for it forever. They've been talking about it, the whole Galar thing.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, in Galar, we had the whole 18 gyms fiasco, and they listened to us basically and were like, you know what? They wanted 18 gyms. We're going to do it in Paldea. And they gave us like 18 badges basically.
Yeah.
So
it's the same number too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the whole thing that we've talked about in the past somewhat with just like the changing of the old guard, and there's like new devs and, you know, people working on the game that are making more of the decisions, and so more of the fan desires will be met, I think, because of them, because they are actually more involved in our world, I'd say. You know, like the older people, which I have all the utmost respect for, don't get me wrong, they probably didn't like pay as much attention to what we were crying out for years, you know.
Yeah, there's also like, I mean, Pokemon now is a global phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
People from around the world, from many different walks of life, from different experiences, enjoy Pokemon. And I feel like for maybe the first 10, 15 years, it was like primarily a Japanese product, right? And I don't think Pokemon is that anymore.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, even, and especially this generation, like, I don't know if you can tell, but just like in the character design and in like just where they're going with everything is just, it's a lot of change all at once.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited and scared at the same time, but yeah.
It's true, yeah. I mean, even with the Pokemon designs, like, I mean, yeah, we're gonna get off topic.
Yeah. You could bring in Lumi's answer to that question, I guess.
Sure. Okay, so Lumi answered this question, right? Does Lumiose Post think Kalos is gonna happen? He goes, Kalos is not happening. But I do think South Kalos, or an official in-game confirmation that Kalos is close to Paldea, could happen. This could be done through characters, let's say Sycamore popping in to give you Kalos starters, or Dexio and Cena giving you a Keystone. That's actually really cool. I forgot about Dexio and Cena. They show up in the Alola region. They're like tourists.
Yep.
So that actually is really cool. And it could be even bigger, adding history lore to the region by, say, mentioning Paldea was the one at war with Kalos. Either way, Lumiose City ain't popping up in SV DLC. That's a good answer.
Yeah, he's sad, like spicy about it, let's say.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good answer. It's like just exactly what we were talking about, I'd say. But even the Galar connection, because I remember all of the people that were just like, when Sword and Shield was coming out, they're like, dude, it's gonna be Kalos DLC. That's why this feels like so, like, we've talked about it a million times, because we have, but not this generation, which is wild. Because it's the same exact thing, same story.
I personally don't remember getting that excited for Kalos. I feel like Kalos has been, like, the hype for Kalos is alive now. I do remember like consuming videos saying like, oh, maybe Kalos could return, but it obviously didn't go anywhere, right? Like, there obviously was no, there's no connective tissue between Kalos and Galar, and maybe there's a couple hints, but there was. It was very similar. For me, it was exactly the same as this. I mean, really,
they are connected technically in real world kind of things, but
yes,
the map of Galar had the like clouds at the bottom, and everyone was like, it's gonna attach to Kalos.
See, and that does more. I mean, I guess it could.
That was even more Kalos. You know what was different is that, like Lumi says here, and like we were just talking about, the main Kalos is not happening. Like, and that would have been that. There was no South Kalos. And South Kalos has been like a rumor in the community for a long time before.
Well, South Kalos isn't even a rumor. South Kalos is like a canonical place that exists that, as far as I can tell, borders Paldea, right?
Exactly.
So like that's
exactly where
that's
this
the thing
from.
Where it's like you can't even argue with it, but you can because
but you can because it's just a random throwaway line in the middle of a game.
I say it like it's an opinion, but it's like it's a prediction, not an opinion. I like the idea of like characters popping in. Something I was thinking about earlier with like the gym, with the amount of gyms, right? Like there was 18 in Galar. There's technically 18 challenges in Paldea. What if in like, let's say they give us like an area. This really could be anywhere, like any sort of DLC that we get for Scarlet and Violet. I like the idea of like maybe there's one gym on the new island, right? Or let's say there's like 2 gyms in Southern Kalos, and they don't need to account for anything because we've already gone through the champion, or whatever, the champion tournament or whatever. Like we're already, you become champion. Spoiler, Soul. When you beat the game, you become a champion.
Wow.
But like, right,
that
like,
one coming.
but I think it'd be cool because like when you go to Kanto, you get the badges, but they don't really do anything. I guess I don't know. I don't think they do anything. So like maybe that'd be kind of fun. You just get 2 extra badges and like. They're like, these are Kanto. These are technically badges that, are valid in Kalos, but they're, like you can't do anything with them in Paldea. But it's a nice little, whatever you call it, like a souvenir, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of them. What you were saying with like other characters in there too, like that. Just as long as it's not like
in
Sword and Shields. No, like Sword and Shields. The 2 rivals that you had in the Isle of Armor.
Sure.
I was disappointed that they were like separate, like 1-for-1 version.
Yeah.
It
makes them almost not feel
all
real.
The characters. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with Sada and Turo, to be honest. Like they should both exist. I don't like the.
You think I think they both exist. I mean, you got to beat the game. I'm pretty sure they
makes
both
sense.
exist.
It makes sense that they would both exist, but I mean in the games themselves, and I mean
yes.
at the beginning of the promotional cycle of Scarlet and Violet, they were like they only exist in one game. I'm pretty sure it's on the website. It's like one professor for each.
Because that's how they're featured, but
right.
I mean, this is not Kalos related, but I do like the idea of like going through a time machine or like accessing, whether it's the 3rd legend or whatever, and then going to the time period. You're contained to Area Zero, but going to the time period of either the past or the future, wherever the original or wherever the paradox, whatever time period they come from, and like your character would be trapped in Area Zero, but it's like a new time period. So there's more paradox. You get to talk to Sada or Turo. And maybe Heath. Maybe there's like more evidence for Heath. There could be like a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Anyways, So and there also are a ton of characters that we could totally see. Like I feel like what's his name? Looker, right? Looker just like disappeared, right? Yeah. Looker should have been in Galar. It is. He
should have,
right?
That's where he really should have been. It blows my mind that he wasn't in at least the DLC.
Or maybe they were trying to like give us attention to detail, and they were like, well, if Looker's from Galar and he's traveling the world, he wouldn't be in Galar because he'd be traveling the world, right?
It's just set up too good, though. It's like he's kind of based off of Sherlock Holmes, right? And it's just why not? Why not just be like
seriously?
Just a little cameo, even All right, it's kind of sad.
It is sad. So let's move on to the next point that Lumiose wrote here. You want to read it off for us?
Yeah.
This one's about Mega Evolution.
Right. So he goes even deeper. This is kind of all of his ideas for the DLC. So he says, Mega's returning. I firmly believe this is possible. They know we love it. They know we want it. They've made a point to keep it alive even while it was absent from Sword and Shield. Solutions would be that you either can't use this in VGC or ranked, or more likely, in his opinion, they may make it where you can get 1 Terra and 1 Mega per battle. But it can't be the same. So Mega evolving his Lucario, he'd lose the option to Terrastalize and vice versa. It's very interesting. I do not think that they will add new Megas. If they did, it would only be... Yeah, it's crazy. If they did, it would only be for 1 Pokemon or set of Pokemon like Paldean starters, to be like the poster children for the DLC. That's a lot. It's a very interesting thought process there.
Yeah, I think most of what's there is him trying to discredit people who would say like, oh, they wouldn't do Megas. They wouldn't bring back Megas because it's unbalanced, whatever. Like I don't think balance is really going to be an issue or a determining factor. I do think, if we are in Kalos, like that's Kalos, right? Like Kalos is what introduced Megas. The alternative is, and you can jump in, but the alternative is like, okay, maybe we go to Kalos and it's not the Mega timeline, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Because everyone always like splits up the timeline between like Megas and non-Megas, and that actually could be a really cool video to do, because like in those different timelines, different things happen. Without the Mega energy, there's like implications. So
yeah, I was just gonna make the point against it actually, but that like kills it. Because I was gonna say like it can't be Kalos, because if there was Megas in Kalos, like that's the main thing, and we can't have Megas in the game. But if it's the timeline where there's no Megas, then
which would be interesting, right? Because like I feel like Legends Arceus was really cool about a lot, like actually showing us, not just like allowing us to theorize, but like showing us that things that shouldn't be in this timeline are in the timeline with the not the ultra wormholes, the space-time distortions, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like they're being better about like showing us these mysteries, right? Even with the ultra wormholes, even the paradox. I would love to see, right, like how the paradox have come to be. I feel like they're starting to be transparent with that, and it'd be cool to see a Kalos region that doesn't have Megas, right?
That'd be wild. It'd be such a cool take on it, though.
Because what if I have no idea. Lumi's got to be here. We'll do a part 2. But like maybe, right? Like maybe the separation is like the world where Megas are used and discovered and repurposed, whatever. That's where Kalos wins, right? And then like or loses. Maybe they lose in that scenario, and then like vice versa. Or like if there's no Megas, Paldea loses and Kalos wins. So that'd be kind of cool. And again, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I jumped through a couple hoops there, but
yeah, I'm with the whole like no Kalos, no Megas either. Yeah. I don't think that Megas are returning either. I would love it. He's like, they know we love it, and it's true. Most fans would want it back, but.
Yeah, I honestly don't care about Megas. Like, when I look at them, I'm like, yeah, that's nostalgic now. It's been 10 years. I think it would be pretty interesting to bring them back, because they've been, like, bringing them back as, like, an extra thing. I think it would be pretty cool, and especially in an open-world game, right, where, like, finding things is content, right? It would make sense to, like, have all these available throughout the region, and you have to find them. There really are a lot of them. So, yeah. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting, and most of these Pokemon are in the game, right? Actually, let's just go through this right now. I guess there's a bunch of Kalos ones. Let's not go through it right now. But Slow.
It's a lot of them.
Yeah, is Alakazam in the game?
No.
Okay, so they're definitely, and Beedrill's not in the game, Pidgey's not in the game. So there are some that aren't in the game, but a lot of these are in the game, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to bring all of them back either.
They don't.
It would make sense that they would if they're gonna bring them back, but
yeah. I think it makes sense for the Pokemon Company to, like, they've always held back certain features, but I like the idea that they've, like, Megas exist and they can bring them back if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I also like that now they're introducing new battle mechanics that won't return and new forms that won't return. I do like that as well, because it just like keeps the magic within the original game. I would love to hear what you guys think. Like, if you think Megas are actually going to return, just let us know what you think in the comments. I don't know if you guys have any any theories, but I think it'd be pretty easy. I feel like it'd be easy to implement, but maybe it would be more difficult, because they would have to then do a lot of testing. Like, that might allow a lot of new glitches, right? That's another thing.
Yeah. Even like with what Lumi was saying, like, that's already too complicated to me. Like, just to make a whole new meta, like the meta of competitive Pokemon is terrestrializing. It's not going to have anything to do with Mega Evolution, and even outside of competitive in the game, it's just maybe like a little special thing that you could do. But why would they just drop it in for something like that? You know, I just don't see it happening. Sadly, very sadly, it's crazy. They're gonna just be like, it's just
none of this is gonna happen.
Yeah, it's a typical Pokemon thing, Game Freak thing, that it's like you waited 20 something years for this. That's how long it's gonna be. You have to wait till freaking Gen 6 remakes to get Mega Evolution back.
Which probably would be in about 10 years, right? I feel like each remake comes out around like 20 years.
Well, they're going a little faster these days. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
They changed their whole thing to like one game a year, so.
That's true, yeah. I don't know. I just look at these and I'm like, they could implement them. They could.
Of course they could.
I don't know. Because Gen 7 did have both Z moves and Megas. I just want to put that out there. So it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is possible.
Gen 7 was definitely special. I mean, it was the last game on the 3DS and on handhelds technically. So I think that they wanted to go out with a bang with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and all that, with adding all of those things in. It's not impossible, let's say.
I would put my money on that it's not going to happen, though.
Yeah, definitely. But this last part that he brought up here about there being like megas just for the Paldean starters, that is interesting. Because in the DLC, if you think about Sword and Shields, like they gave the Kanto starters and the Galar starters Gigantamax forms. I think that is a likely kind of, I want to say model, because obviously we probably won't get megas. I don't know. Something special for them could be on the horizon.
Dude, okay, so like now I'm thinking so this one, all right, what I'm about to say is for the pattern heads out there who like love patterns, like weakly veiled patterns. So we have megas were introduced. That is a form changing, like a permanent form change, right? Like we'll forever have a design for Mega Blaziken, right? Then they introduced in Gen 7 a battle gimmick that has no form changing. It's just like a cool animation and then it happens. And that is the game where megas existed. Then they introduced Gigantamax in Gen 8, which is another battle form with the battle gimmick, and that design will always exist, right? And there was no megas in there. Gen 9, we're currently in an era where the battle gimmick does not have a design attached to the form change. So what if, one is not a pattern, two is not a pattern, but what if this is the gen where they go, okay, well, let's allow megas to be viable with this because it's another selling point. Just want to throw that out there.
I knew where you were going, like, instantly.
I don't even believe it
happening.
But I just want to put it out there.
You make a good point. That's a good point. I thought about it actually when you said it earlier, because I relate Gen 7 to Gen 9 like very closely. There's so many things. I've said it a million times on Twitter, but like Gen 9 is basically a copy of Gen 7. So it could be like that. If you look, there's the Titans and the Totems and the like trial challenges versus doing gyms, which instead they did like double here. I could just go down the list of like things that are. There's tons of things.
Let's do that. Let's do a full episode about that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and so this could follow that. It could. Okay,
so the third thing Lumi writes, and we haven't even gotten to like the list, like this for those watching on YouTube or on Spotify, like. This is we got a big list to go through, but the next thing he writes, this is just like a DM he sent us. I think Carbank and Deoncé will get a story, even if only a side one, like Keldeo in the Swords of Justice in the Crown Tundra. I do think they could tie their lore into Terrelastization and maybe even the third legend in Glamora, because crystals and Terra crystals, you get the drill. Yeah, he's got a lot of like attitude in these messages.
Yeah, right. He was like feisty writing these.
I actually don't. I need a full. Like he goes like, you get the drill, and I'm like, I think I need a little bit more time with this to process. Like I don't think I get it yet. Yeah. So basically, I don't know. So you can explain this better than me.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
It's actually in one of his other things that he wrote, but basically, Carbank. I think we've talked about it on the podcast actually, but Carbank is the only Pokemon that is coming via home that is not like a legendary or a starter or mythical or anything. And I'm pretty sure Deoncé is too. So basically that's just insane. Like, why would that be the only Pokemon Gen 6 Carbink that is kind of related to Diancie in the Dex and lore, I guess? So he's just making the point there, that there could be a lot more to it, like something special, And I do think that he says a story, actually, which that would be really cool to get us like a side quest story. That was one of the other big things about Scarlet and Violet that was a downside to me, is like no side quests. This would be like an actual side quest story, which would be awesome.
That would be cool if like DLC introduces a lot of side quests. That would, it's disappointing it's not in the base game, but that would be kind of nice if like all these new things open up, and then I can like replay a file at some point with those side quests as like an option. So to also add to this point, it like, again, thinly veiled pattern here, right? 2 is not a pattern, but I'm going to say it anyways. Keldeo was available in Sword and Shield. I'm pretty sure it was like in the code for base Sword and Shield, and then Keldeo got kind of like its own little side quest mission in the Crown Tundra. So we could be looking at something similar here with that.
That's like really small scale side quest.
It is.
Like,
No, it is. It is
not a story. It's just a thing.
So a story would be nice with Diancie, but truly, like I think, a lot of these mythicals, like, right, like that's the thing. We just like get handed the mythicals, and I think Diancie and Carbink were specific because they actually reference each other. I don't know if it's like in the Dex entries or like when you talk to certain NPCs, but it was very like deliberately connected, these two Pokemon. So I think not just like, even though there was a connection there to get Diancie, it was just like from a Pokemon Center, from a code from GameStop, right? So to actually just get any sort of story would be nice. It doesn't even need to be that complicated.
Yeah, I totally agree. With the whole like side quest thing, it would be cool for sure to have like a big side quest in there. When you think about like what are they gonna do for Paldea, because they already did like the 3 quests in the main game, so they're gonna have to do like more quests in the actual DLC. And I'm hoping for more than one, because obviously Crown Tundra, they did the Calyrex like quest, let's call it. That was like a story, and I'm hoping just for more than one. It would make sense to do like 2. Let's hope.
Do you think we would get like? Do you think they would give us so for each location, right? Each DLC pack, do you think they'll give us like a new Titan and a gym? There, I guess there wouldn't be any like Team Star. There'd be none of that. But like one of the locations could have a new Titan Pokemon to face, right? And then that could maybe give us like, I guess that would mean that maybe we get a new power. I think I heard some other creators. I think it might have been another podcast. They were discussing the possibility of like the fact that maybe we can get an increased power for our ride Pokemon. And right now the glaring thing is that our Pokemon will fly and then slowly decline after about like 10 seconds. What if maybe we could get a new power up where we can just like fly indefinitely? That'd be really nice.
Yeah, I would love that so much. I don't know what else we could do, like maybe dive or something. Or
dive would be really cool.
Yeah,
no, dive would be great.
Cool.
Dive would be great because there are Pokemon that live under the water that you can't access.
It's true. They would have to like kind of model, I guess, a kind of underwater world or something that you could a little bit explore. That would be the only thing with that.
That's true.
Unless it's just Pokemon down there. It's kind of like... That's the only thing. But I love the flying thing.
Yeah. Interesting. We can talk about that later. Anyway, so let's go over to Lumi's list right here. We're just going to read it off. He's got hints to Kalos. So foreign language teacher is French and thus probably from Kalos. I think that makes sense. We've seen a lot of French-speaking people or people with like French accents, or they'll say like bonjour, or like some really basic French in the Pokemon in like various Pokemon regions. I think your rival Blue, like the red and blue rival, like Gary, he does speak French at some point. What I forget what region it's in. But that would suggest now that Kalos exists that like that he was in Kalos, which is kind of cool.
Right. I think that they've been doing that for a long time with.
I love it. But there'll be people who even speak like German, or they'll speak like I don't even know, just like literally any other language, and you'll be like, that's interesting. Like, now all of a sudden they're speaking Italian. Like, does that suggest there's an Italian region that we don't know about? There probably is. Yeah, right. Let's hope.
Like the Masuda avatar always says ciao, so it's like
True,
maybe.
Dude.
Maybe,
but Masuda's been from Italy region this whole time.
The whole time, Masuda, please do it. I really want this is so off topic, but I really want just like a old Roman region, just to spice it up. Like we do an Italian region, but instead it's like old Rome. That'd be fun.
You just tweeted something today about the code name of Paldea, or the original name of Paldea, to be something that means Atlantis. Do you want to talk about that at all?
It was literally Atlantis, actually.
Wow.
So if you go into the game's code, you'll see that the name for Paldea, so somebody was telling me it might just be Area Zero, but either way, Area Zero or the whole of Paldea, I think it's the whole of Paldea, was code-named Atlantis. So, I mean, there's so much to go into with that, but it opens up doors to so many other theories, because basically they based a lot of that on Atlantis, like the whole Paldea. So you can think of the implications for yourself there.
That's crazy. Where is Atlantis supposed to be on the real world map? Just like in the Mediterranean, or is it supposed to be? Yeah.
No, it's outside of the Mediterranean technically, because apparently it was a made up thing by Plato, the Greek philosopher. Actually, I don't know if he was a philosopher, but anyway, he made it up, and he said that it was in between Hercules' arms, which back then was the Strait of Gibraltar.
Okay. Is it supposed to be that little area between Spain and
Africa there, in Morocco, I think.
Okay.
So if you go through that little strait there, outside is the Atlantic Ocean. So I think that if you think back to that time period, it's like Atlantis.
Okay,
it was that was the Atlantic Ocean to them. Cool. That was the closest Greece was getting to the Atlantic Ocean. So, that's where that all comes from.
So just to brain blast, we just talked about what if we do another Titan, get a power to dive? What if that allows
let's go
Koraidon to dive into a new area that's Atlantis? It's like an underwater. Aren't there underwater caves?
Where?
I don't know. I feel like that's definitely in fiction.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if those are real.
In Paldea, right? In Atlantis.
No. The crew of middle school kids, right? They'll have I don't know. I'm thinking of the Scooby-Doo crew. Or, I don't even know. They go underwater, they come up, and then it's whoa, there's a cave here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think with the whole Atlantis thing, it's really just more of that's what Area Zero is. Even though the map might have been called Atlantis, I think it's just about Area Zero. This is going into a whole nother thing, but just that Area Zero is a land underneath the surface, and it's all a whole ancient and future civilization filled with mystery kind of thing. I could go into that pretty deep.
Well, no, we can definitely move on. So then Lumi also writes, Paldea is based on Spain, which neighbors France. Oh, I don't even know why I read that. I should have skipped over that. That's very obvious.
Good job, Lumi.
He wrote that you think he was writing that for our benefit? He thought we didn't know that?
Yeah. He just called us dumb.
Yeah. All right, Mega Evolution is referenced in Occult, or Occulture, which is the magazine, as well as clearly being used as an inspiration for Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant. That one is really cool, right? We got Roaring Moon right here. I'll read the decks real quick. It is possible that this is the creature listed as Roaring Moon in an expedition journal that still holds many mysteries. According to an article in a dubious magazine, this Pokemon has some connection to the phenomenon that occurs in a certain region, and the phenomenon is Mega, and the region is Kalos.
Wow.
Right? I mean, It's just a dex entry, but it's you know. See, the other thing is like Game Freak could be like, we're not planning to do Kalos, but here are a bunch of hints so you know that we know that it is right there, right?
Yeah.
Which would hurt way more.
Yeah, it's tough when they do that stuff. I wish that like Dex entries over the years we know them to just be complete nonsense anyway. So
yeah, that is
it doesn't
true.
matter.
Yeah.
Like people base so much on Dex entries, but they're just like every time they contradict themselves, they come up with new lore. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, we like in universe, like the Dex entries that you read are just they're biased sources, right? They're firsthand, but they're biased. So next, Lumiose writes, Dragon Trainers in the northeast of Paldea, the part that would hypothetically be neighbor Kalos, so that's like right by that wall, use the Collision Dragons, Gudra, Noivern, and Dragalge. So again,
this blew my mind.
This is cool. Have you not heard that?
No, I did. I did a whole tweet on it and theory and all that, but yes, it just
that might not be a hint. It might not be a hint.
Dude, I don't know how that isn't though. I don't know how this isn't one. This is maybe the strongest one to me because it's just like they're all there, like near where it should be. That's what's crazy. But they're also all using only dragons from Kalos.
But they could just because Kalos is supposed to be there. So all that could mean is like it's a hint. All it could mean is like those Kalos
an Easter
trainers.
Egg.
Yes, an Easter egg, right? Like I gotta name the title of the video now, like one Easter egg from Scarlet and Violet. We don't have 150. I don't know. I feel like it could just be that like they lived there and they came over and now they're there because we know that you know that we know that Kalos is right there.
It just could have been any dragon. Like okay, they're dragon tamers. They could have any dragon Pokemon. Could be what Haxorus is in the game. Hydreigon's in the game. You know, it's like hey, Dragalge.
I think yeah, that's true. I think it is a good Easter egg at worst. At best, it's pretty dope. That maybe like, I don't know. And it's also like a very ominous location. If you have been there in the game, like it's kind of weird. Like I don't think there's anywhere else that feels like that. There's like these jutting spikes sticking out of the ground. It's pretty cool.
That's like that and like the complete opposite of the map are the two places I haven't been yet. And Area Zero.
This next one I think that really cool for me. All Kalos starters are in the game via home. This is so important because this was the case for Alola and Sword and Shield. And they were given to you in Isle of Armor DLC. So, yeah, the fact that the Kalos starters, you can even get them in the game I don't know. I think that's really cool to me. It makes me think that like at some point they're going to at least give them to us. It would be cool if Sycamore shows up, right? And he's like, hi, I come from the Kalos region, and I'm handsome.
That would be cool.
Right?
So I could see happening. That's like a little fun Easter egg thing that they could do and be like, oh, Kalos is right up here,
Yeah. Where would he show up? I guess he would be like at the whatever you call it, the academy, right?
At the train station.
Is there a train station?
South Kalos. No, there was a train that goes to South Kalos or whatever, remember?
Yeah, but is there a train station in Paldea?
No, I don't think so. But there could be in the DLC. Who knows?
There could be in the DLC. Yeah, you hop up on that ledge and there's a train station right there.
Yeah. The next point goes with it perfectly too. Just to continue reading it, it's just like all Kalos mythicals are in the game via home.
Yeah.
And this is the only region to have all of the mythicals, like all of the Kalos mythicals in Gen 9. Cool. Yeah.
Even Volcanion?
Yep, even Volcanion.
Even Hoopa?
They're all in it.
That's amazing. So, little side story. I have a complete living dex, and I at some point got the Hoopa event in Gen 6, and I think it was in one of my games, and I didn't know it was in the box, and I reset it to like just play through another game. And there's no way to get Hoopa, and so I've just had like an incomplete living dex. I never got my special event Magearna. So this is great news that maybe in the next 12 months We could
Yeah,
get
they might.
I could get a Hoopa. That'd be nice.
Yeah, they might do like a distribution or something. That's what they usually do for these kind of things.
Yeah,
That's
so
a sad story.
Yeah, it is sad, man. I'll take all the condolences. It's is it? Do you
Man.
think it's more sad than the fact that Lumiose has been sick for 5 days?
Yes.
Yes. All right, moving on. A lot of Kalos Mons in general were included in the Paldea decks or via home. Starters, Mythicals, Flabebe, Scatterbug, Fletchling, Skidoo, Clauncher, Skrelp, Halucha, Sylveon, Gumi, Noibat, Bergmite. I didn't know that the rest of that bullet was going to be listing off names.
Right. Me either.
And then he says also like Carbink is up there. Carbink and Diancie, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
This is like pretty weak evidence.
Yeah, you know what it tells me more than anything is just that Kalos remake is very far away, which kind of like almost makes me feel like there's not Kalos DLC coming. Do you know what I mean?
They gave us all the Pokemon because they're like, you're not going to get a full game.
Yep, you're not going to get these Pokemon in a game anytime soon. You know what I mean? Other than
sad.
this is it here.
That's
like you're
sad.
getting them.
And that's why
That's how they always do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
That is true.
there's not as many Gen 5 in this, so Gen 5 is coming up
on the way. That's a good point. Yeah, we got to do a video on that as well. I don't know. So I feel like the fact that they gave us a lot of these, that could mean that like when we do go to Southern Kalos, those areas are mostly made up of these Pokemon, right? I could see that. Also, I think also like Kalos has a pretty small dex, so it doesn't necessarily mean that like those Pokemon won't be available. I think it just means like, there's only so many that you can add.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's no Pumpkaboo, there's no Trevenant, dude. Those are really good ones.
Those are like some of the best ones.
I know. All right, let's move on to some more speculation stuff that Lumiose wrote for us. We're gonna get into Area Zero here. So the obvious one, which okay, I'm reading it out. I'm reading it in my mind. All right, So Area Zero. Lumiose writes Area Zero AZ. While I hate this logic, if you don't bring it up, 50 million people in the comments will. LOL. So you guys should leave a comment saying that we didn't talk about this. So Lumi has to like listen back and I don't know.
AZ.
I think
Zero.
So in preparation of this, I was actually watching Lumi's videos to try to get like his comments like in my mind. And what he did bring up was that he read something that maybe what was it? I think it was Area Zero wasn't named after AZ, but maybe AZ like almost took the name or has become, or that's like the name that was given to him because of the events of Area Zero, right? They were like, it was so shameful that people just started referring to him as AZ, right? Yeah. I don't think Area Zero would be named after the person who did like a horrible crime, right? And then Lumi talks about this in his video. So I think there could be a connection there. It feels, I don't know. What do you think about this? Because I feel like it's like feels deliberate.
It's a crazy connection. Like
it could mean nothing, but it literally feels deliberate.
I almost feel like it's the localization or translating team that is just messing with us, because I think that in Japanese it's not the same.
I think it is. I think we looked this up. I think we looked this up.
Yeah. You're right. Hey,
let me look it up again.
I think I remember that we did.
Because you asked that same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, your point.
I think it's a crazy connection, but it's just like I've been saying this whole time. I just don't think that Kalos is happening. So it's kind of, I don't know why they did it like that. It's literally what I said at the beginning of this podcast. There's so much evidence for it to be real. Logically, it should totally be happening, but it's just that the Game Freak logic is in the back of my mind and fighting against this.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's things that we'll get into it here, but I feel like there are connections with Area Zero that just line up perfectly with everything that we also know from Kalos. So let's see what else Lumi writes. Area Zero's crystals look very similar to the Ultimate Weapon. That one is totally true. Like, let me just look up a picture of Area Zero. It's kind of wild. And then also that adds up, I think he writes this later, that also adds up with like, or it lines up well with how Glamora looks. Area Zero crystals. And again, like it seems like it's not like there's a profound statement here. It's not like this is this and that's why it equals this. It's just like these connections feel very deliberate. Like you could easily make them look different. I don't know why Area Zero crystals aren't really showing up. I guess
I don't actually know that. I don't know that one that he's talking about with the Area Zero crystals. Obviously, because I haven't been down there. But
that's true. Oh, you can't even see my screen right now.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Okay, so like when you're down there, it's like there's these like multicolored see-through crystals. It's like they're like glass.
Okay, I see.
Crystals.
I see what he means then.
And then that lines up, and then the ultimate weapon is like looks like as if it's made up with that material.
I was thinking the shape of it, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I think so this is the next point. Glamora, when in bloom, sort of resembles the ultimate weapon as well. And Glamora litters, like it's like Glamora is like a defining feature of Area Zero. When you get down there, you're going to see so much of it. And then that's like, okay, well, that's a silly stretch, but maybe there's something there where like there's a paradox form of Glamora that we don't know about, right? Or I don't know, or maybe like Glamora is a paradox of the flower, like AZ's floette or something. Because I know, like I feel like that whole line, the whole like floette line, the Pokemon is so small, right? And then the flower is mostly what you see first. So this actually would line up. It's like the future Pokemon that are depictions or interpretations of Pokemon. They kind of like take something and can misconstrue it, right? So it's like
I just kind of had it. Go for it. I just kind of have a revelation while you were talking about that.
I'm having this revelation that, like maybe that's and you'll see when you play Area Zero, you get down there and Glamora, you're shown like there's these cutscenes that are like, wow, what is this Pokemon? And every time it does it, it's a paradox Pokemon, but it also does that for Glamora to suggest that Glamora could be a paradox. But what's your revelation?
When you were talking about AZ's floette, and I was thinking about it. Its flower, AZ's floette's flower, is the ultimate weapon. Like it looks like the ultimate weapon, which looks like Glamora.
Yes.
When you were saying that it could be like a paradox of AZ's floette, I was like, how could that be? And then I was like, oh, it could be like it's like literal flower.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you can pull it up, but AZ's floette, like the actual.
I'm showing it now.
Yeah, the black flower.
It's interesting.
It looks like the ultimate weapon.
It does. It's got the it really, really does.
It's a purposely shaped like that. I'm like pretty sure.
Yeah. So these are just like things, and it could like there could be no connection, but I feel like there's got to be some sort of there'll be something that and the thing with Pokemon games is sometimes they don't even explain. They don't even explain things. They'll just be like, here's some more evidence. Figure it out. Go watch Birdkeeper Toby. Right?
Yeah.
So I think the last thing here, just about Floette that I want to mention is like I love that its like official name is Eternal Flower. It's the Eternal Flower Floette. I call it AZ's Floette, but like Eternal Flower sounds like a paradox name. So I think that's really cool. Might just be a residual thing that they were able to make. Like they just kind of retconned it. But I think that'd be just is interesting to point out. So moving on, another piece of speculation. Pokemon has made a point to keep Mega Evolution alive, arguably more than Z moves. Since leaving the mainline games, Megas have been seen in Masters, Go, and the anime. Ash even got his first Mega. I mean, we talked about Megas earlier. It is true, Megas do also exist in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is a very weird place for them to return. I guess it's not that ridiculous because Megas were in Gen 7, right? So it was Megas were in Gen 6, 7, and then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And then I feel like that was a surprise when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out. I feel like that was a surprise that Megas like were in the game.
It just like fuel to the fire, like for people to be like, well, they did it for that game, you know, it could happen anywhere now. Like, why did they do that? Yeah. I was going to mention this earlier because we were talking about like just bringing back some of the Megas that are actually in Paldea. So like Alakazam isn't. They only brought back the Gen 1 Megas for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So that also is provides precedent for that. Precedent.
Yeah, no, true. And then he writes that Mega Evolution data was scrubbed in Sword and Shield, but it was brought back in Pokemon Legends Arceus for some reason. I don't really understand how that works with like game development and what like ends up in code. I don't know if you have any opinions on that, but I think that
you
is
saw it,
interesting.
Right? Did you ever did you hear about this before or see that?
Yeah, I made a lot of videos saying Megas were going to be in Pokemon
Legends
Arceus.
Perfect.
I admit that I was wrong.
Spreading
misinformation.
I didn't mean to get that out of you, but yeah, it's a thing that does with all of their games. They leave data in their older data of older games in their new games. I don't know why, but it is a proven thing that they do that. And this was also another example of it. It's weird though because they took it out.
Yeah.
In Swish. Yeah. Like it wasn't in Sword and Shield.
I was watching someone's video and they were describing how they were trying to like figure out how Game Freak like creates games and they were suggesting that Game Freak really has just like this like exclusive game engine, right? Like they're not using game engines that are like widely available or whatever, right? So they have this game engine that they just keep altering and changing, and the code is different. And maybe what they were suggesting is like maybe it's so difficult for them to scale their team is they bring people in because they have this like proprietary, like totally unique, difficult to work with game engine and code that when they bring new people in, then they have to like learn how to use it, and it's just like more and more difficult. So I guess it would make sense that if they have like a game engine that they've just been like adding on to, that it would contain data from other games. Just kind of an idea there.
Definitely.
So we got Mega Gardevoir is referenced in Pokemon Legends Arceus with a rock that resembles it in the Alabaster ice fields. This becomes more important when you factor in that Pokemon Legends Arceus had several hints to Scarlet and Violet. So he's kind of saying here that like, Pokemon Legends Arceus hinted to SV,
which I agree with.
Yeah, and then there's now hints to what could be next. I think we see lots of hints. Game Freak has always hinted, right? The one that I always think of, I don't know if you remember this, but like the floor of the Pokemon Center in I think it was Diamond and Pearl was gold and silver. And everyone's like, that means we're going to get a gold and silver remake.
Right.
That's what I always think of, which is like feels so petty and inconsequential, but it was right.
Yeah, it's crazy sometimes when they are right.
So, okay, next we got Zygarde is depicted with a relationship to hexagons, as is the third legendary. This one I was thinking about today. I think a lot of people are talking about Zygarde, and maybe it is a different form of the third legendary. I think it is possible that they could, like, there could be like a 1,000 complete form or something, right? Where,
interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense because 100% is like, it's limited. It's like 0 to 100. But I feel like they could do something else where if Zygarde is all about like smaller cells joining together to create something else, what if, right, like everything we've heard about the third legendary in Zygarde is that they enter, like, or they exit their dormancy when there's some sort of threat to the environment. I like the idea of, we see 100% complete Zygarde, right? We see those as like a final beast. But what if each of them acts as a cell, or maybe 10%, and then all of a sudden, like if something like Area Zero happens, it threatens like just destroying the environment, letting out the Paradox Pokemon. All of these neighboring Zygarde just come together to form something even bigger, which is maybe the third legendary. I don't know. People keep talking about the hexagons, and how they connect Zygarde to the third legendary. What do you think about that?
It's hard to say. It's both. I think like it could go either way. I think that you brought up a really big point, is that Zygarde comes when like there's imbalance. Like something is creating something that shouldn't be there. Zygarde's out there trying to stop it. I feel like the third legendary could be related to actually causing the
Sure.
problem. Instead of being Zygarde to come to fix the problem. But I mean, I haven't finished the game, but I know a lot of stuff about the end of the game. So, them bringing Paradox Pokemon in is like literally destroying. Like if Paradox Pokemon got to the surface or whatever, they'd destroy like the ecosystem and all
Yeah.
that. So that would be a perfect time for a Zygarde to come and save everything, which could fall right in perfectly with the third legendary if that's really what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have my reservations on it. The hexagons is the only real connection
Yeah.
other than the like all these Kalos connections. It's just like, oh, Kalos might be connected, so let's connect this too. It's a reptile that has hexagons, so it's like, oh,
It has to be Zygarde. There's only
yeah.
It can't just be like a design flaw. It can't just be like a design choice. Yeah. So something else that we talked about are like how there's a lot of megas that have there's a lot of Pokemon that are in Scarlet and Violet that have megas. So we can skip past this. Lumi wrote down 2 leaks here. Do you want to cover these, Soul? I think he included his opinion on the leaked riddle, right?
Right.
And I think we don't. He's not here to defend himself, so I'd like to I'd like to rebuttal a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to read these?
Sure, I'll read them. So we have our resident leaker, Riddler, let's call him, because he doesn't really leak, but he does. Who is Mr. Koo, and he apparently, according to Lumi, has teased Mega's potentially returning. Actually, he kind of did with one of his replies to his riddle, so I guess that's fair. He asked what gimmick stands out and why. The answer was confirmed to be Megas. He was like, it's Megas, because they are the only gimmick to appear outside of their debut region in the mainline games. So there's a lot to be said about this. I think, personally, just covering Koo for so long, I think that there's more of a riddle here than just what he said. He doesn't just say, it's Megas. It's more than it's just Megas, I think.
Yeah.
So that's where I instantly rebuttal.
Sure, I like that. The next one here is something that was recent, and honestly had me second guess a lot of the content that I've been putting out, a lot of the ideas that we've been playing around with. So I think that's healthy, but I'm curious. So Koo writes, or he teased that people have their hopes too high for DLC. And what Lumi writes here is what I agree with, is that maybe he's referring to people thinking that the entirety of Kalos will be available. We all talked. None of us think that is actually going to happen. So hopefully he's talking about that and not the fact that Kalos DLC will not happen at all.
I don't know much about this. But I almost don't think that that's what he was even referring to for DLC. I think that he was referring to plans for 2023. So people were saying, Detective Pikachu 2 and other huge surprises that are things that are going to happen. I think maybe not all of that is going to happen. It's just going to be DLC and a mobile game or something. Who. That's what I think he never even said having hopes too high. It's just a little bit concerning. Us as Poke fans, we just instantly are let's go. Let's think of the craziest thing that could happen. But the reality is usually a lot different than that. Yeah. I think he's just reality checking us with that tweet that he put out.
Which is good. I think there has been. I've noticed it online on YouTube. There's just a whole wave of Kalos speculation, and now that new people have got the game for Christmas and the holidays, I think there's another wave coming. We kind of are anticipating DLC announcement anytime from now to February. So people are excited. I hope that's why you're watching the video right now. That's why we're making the video, because we're also very excited about the possibilities, right? And then so Lumi wrote a couple more rabbit holes that we could go down. We've already been talking for a long while, but let's review these. Would Megas, if returning, be allowed in VGC? If so, how would it function alongside Terrestrial?
No.
Yeah.
No is the answer.
Yeah,
I don't think it would not be allowed.
I think if it is brought in, it just will be allowed. I think if it is not brought in, it's not allowed because it's not in the game. But I don't think there's. I think they can easily. The thing is, what I've realized in this last hour is that if they do bring in megas, they're going to have to create new assets, and then also like test out whether or not megas is going to allow for more glitches, right? Like when you mega, can some people figure out a way to break it where then you have Terra mega, right? Or can they just work seamlessly? Or maybe they just work differently. Maybe they work. This would be weird. Maybe they work how they work in Pokemon Go, where you mega evolve your Pokemon and then you have access to it for a duration of time, where you mega evolve it outside of battle. That's how it works in Pokemon Go. So that's kind of interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't see it. I can't see it.
I don't see it.
I'd love it, but yeah, it's
okay. So if Kalos did return, would it be made up of an open world game or be kept linear? He says it won't return, but just for fun.
That's what this is all about. This is all about it won't return, but just for fun.
Yeah. I think everything in this game is going to be. I think everything's going to be open world, right?
Yes.
Like, what does linear even mean at this point?
Yeah. It makes sense, his question, because Kalos is linear, and so he's saying like if they brought back actual Kalos, that is a good question for like the future, and like even for us to talk about one day, like. What are they going to do for future remakes now that they've made the transition to open world? Yeah. Are they just going to be like normal, like almost like Sword and Shield, or are they going to be open world versions of them, like Kalos open world? I don't see the latter happening. It's just so much to take on, and I think remakes are supposed to be like easier for them to make.
They should be, yeah. I think we got to do a full episode about this. I do think the chibis were a little bit too they're just trying to get a little bit too cheap, trying to get away with something, right?
Yeah.
I think if BDSP looked more like maybe Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, I think I'd be happy.
Which also kind of had chibis, which is fun.
It is chibi, yeah, but it's still an elevation, right? Better. I feel like they can. I feel like if they make an engine that is like Gen 6, that's a good model because it's still old-fashioned, it's still chibi, but it would be polished, it'd be upscaled for HD.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So that's cool. Man, we do have to have that conversation. That'd be fun.
That's it's a huge one actually. So
Kalos characters that could or you would want to return to show up in DLC. This kind of goes back to the old thing about whether the game's linear or not. Like, I think any access we have to Kalos, Southern Kalos, I think it'd be a lot of fun to find characters returning. Something that they used to do in older games. Maybe it wasn't only in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but there was like a gym where all of the gym leaders would show up to at different times of the week, right? So you play through Heart Gold, Soul Silver. There's 16, gym battles, gym trainers, gym leaders is what they're called, that you defeat. And then every day of the week, there's a random chance for one of them to show up. And then you can rebattle them with their final teams. I think it'd be weird, but also very cool. Yeah, right? Like if just just a random character shows up from whether it's Paldea or I guess if it's in Kalos, the Kalos trainers show up, right? That'd be so cool. And they did something like that in Gen 7, and we see Gen 9 copy a lot of things from Gen 7, right? We see that was surreal that like Rainbow Rocket introduced all of those like old evil team members, and then also like the battle tree allowed for you to battle red and blue. Like that was so cool.
It was epic.
So sick, dude. So I could see something like that, and that'd be a fun way to I don't need the whole region. If I'm technically in Kalos and I'm battling Kalos people, that's that would be enough.
You're in Kalos basically.
that would be enough, right?
Yeah, I think something like that is realistic and would be good. I still don't think that they would do it, but they should do it. Like, it makes sense. It's like a way to get away with Kalos, but not even go to Kalos.
And we don't even have a battle facility at all.
Mm-hmm. So I do think that will be coming in the DLC. Like, I can't see them not putting some kind of battle facility in there. I don't know what the rules will be or what the format will be, but something has to happen.
I don't know. That actually gets me excited. I would be very happy with something like that where we could battle those older characters. I mean, the Pixel games always did it best because, like, in Gen 5, you could battle everything from all 5 regions.
Yeah.
Even people who weren't even, battleable. You fought rivals, you fought main characters, you fought gym leaders, everything. So, anything like that would be sick.
Literally spoiled. They
So
spoiled us.
Man. So spoiled.
They spoiled us. No,
So
so much has been taken away.
Yeah. And then I don't know. So do you have any lasting thoughts about Southern Kalos DLC, Scarlet and Violet DLC in general? We definitely gotta. I mean, maybe we do a follow-up episode with Lumi about just DLC in general because there are so many possibilities. We've been hyper focusing on Kalos, but I think it would be fun to just do like a general DLC video.
I agree. I mean, people, when they listen back to this, they'll hear us say, "Oh, we should do a video about that," like 5 or 6 times because there was so much stuff in here.
And we will.
Yeah, definitely. Listen to us, leave a like and all that stuff. But for like last thoughts on it, after doing this and talking with you about this, I don't want to switch to like Kalos could be possible, but there's just, I can't like 100% count it out. It's still a very decent possibility. I don't want to say like probable or anything, but it's just, there's so much like that we've laid out here today and talked about that make me think, wow, like it's a very big opportunity and seems like it's possible.
Yeah, I think overall, like when I close my eyes and imagine what the direct is gonna look like in February, like I can almost see some of the things that they would tease, and I don't know. I feel like it goes back to what we said in the beginning. If they're gonna do it, now's the time. If they don't do it now, and the next next region's in China or the next region's like another European country or it's in Japan or whatever, like, then so be it. But like, if they're gonna do it, it would feel right now. We're a long way away, at least, from the predicted timeline of when a Kalos remake could come, unless we get some sort of like wild. So this is the. I said this on another episode. This is the only other thing that I think probably won't happen, but could happen if we don't have if we don't get DLC and it's Southern Kalos, and if we don't get a Kalos remake, right? If we don't have to wait for 10 years. If they throw us some sort of wild card and they build a Kalos remake in the Gen 9 engine, and then that's where, and then they show us a new perspective of Kalos, right? I think it would be a different perspective of Kalos if it's the Gen 9 engine and there's no megas, and it's the timeline where there is no mega evolution, right? I think they could do something twisted like that, and show the right. I think that could be really interesting. And it doesn't need to be Legends, and I'm not even expecting it. I'm just saying, like, that I think could possibly be a possibility. The fact that there are so many hints that are deliberate and connect the 2 regions together, I think it feels like, if we're going to keep expecting things based on patterns, they want to surprise us. And that's on the far spectrum of being surprised, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe the fact that I even thought of it means it'll never, like, okay, well, they gotta they gotta do something even different now. But I think we're gonna get some sort of recognition of Kalos, and that excites me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line to take away from all this, though, is like, if none of this is pointing to a Kalos DLC, a South Kalos DLC, that's what it was, though. They were just recognizing that Kalos is close by and has influence in, Pokemon World Spain, which is Paldea.
Leave us all your comments. We read every single comment. We reply to a lot of them. If you leave us a good question, we'll even answer it on the show. This was a long episode, so we're not going to be reading questions right now. But as you can see, this is our web page, our YouTube page. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, get this page monetized. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Music, leave us some reviews. That'd be super cool. It kind of blows my mind. So I'll show you afterwards. It blows my mind how many people are actually listening via a podcast app. It makes me very grateful. So yeah, I hope everyone's having a great 2023. We'll see you next time. hopefully Lumi's feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out.
Peace.